All right, so hello again and welcome. I am Darla Jackson. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I have been a Philadelphia Sculptors member for a very long time and just love the organization. I was really happy to put this together for you guys tonight. I'll talk a lot about Instagram and why I love it, but I think that it is just such an amazing opportunity to share your artwork in a way that is very accessible and wonderful, just in general. So one thing I do want to say otherwise is that if we do get disconnected or you do for any reason, just try to get back to that link that you signed on with originally. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to get right into it. So you guys should see my screen, which says Instagram as a tool. And we're going to get into the slideshow right away. Again, for anybody who came in, if you don't mind, you can mute yourselves. And then if you have a question, you can drop it into the chat, which I will be able to see and I'll keep up with as best I can. Right. So Instagram as a tool. We're sculptors, right? We like tools. So that's how we're going to think about this. I'm sorry, there is one person who is not muted. So if everyone could just mute, sorry, I'll say that a lot, I guess. It looks like it's Tom. If you could mute yourself, that would be great. Oh, right. So Instagram as a tool. I have been using Instagram for 10 years now as a tool for my sculpture. I think it's wonderful because over the course of the last year, I've sold more work on Instagram than I have through my galleries. And I had actually a really great year with my galleries. So that was extra surprising to me that Instagram managed to make more money for me through my work. The reason that's great too is that they're direct sales. So I'm getting 100% of the commission as opposed to working through a gallery where they're getting 50%. The other reason I think it's great is because it gives you a lot of new opportunities. So people will see your work, different galleries and museums. I've been asked to participate in 2 museum shows over the next 2 years and a large scale gallery show just from people who've seen me on Instagram. So I think it is an opportunity for your work to reach a wider audience, which who doesn't like that, right? And then the third reason I think it's great is in addition to galleries, museums, and whatnot, is that your actual collector base is widened. So I have a lot of people that I'm really great friends with now because they found my work through Instagram, they started collecting and they continue to do so. And also my 2021 win of the year was that Daryl Hannah, who you may know from the film Splash, bought 2 of my pieces because she saw them on Instagram. So that was, you know, my star-studded moment of 2021, all thanks to Instagram. So I think that it makes things possible that wouldn't normally be possible. I mean, the fact that Daryl Hannah would walk into a Philadelphia gallery, I think is probably a low percentage. So being able to see it on Instagram just makes that a higher likelihood that it could happen. So we're going to just get right into it in terms of why Instagram, other than the reasons that I've talked about already. The benefits are that Instagram is acting like your website, like your mailing list, and your business card all at once. So you can give people your Instagram address and they can see your most up-to-date work, what you're doing, what's coming up, what shows you have coming, and then they have your contact info or a way to reach you if they're able to go to this link. And so some of us have websites that are more easy to update, but there are a few of us who have to go through computer programmers who are doing it, and it becomes prohibitive. So your website doesn't get updated as often. Maybe you don't send mailing list newsletters out ever or very occasionally. This makes it so that you're doing something like that, you know, a few times a week. So that's why I think it's great. It is very easy to update once you get the hang of it. There's a little bit of a learning curve. So in the beginning, it might feel difficult, but once you learn it, it becomes just part of your routine. It's a visual medium, so therefore it is ideal for artists. Twitter never caught on for me because I want to look at pretty pictures of beautiful things. So that's why I think that this is so popular with a large number of artists and why it is so successful for us. It allows you to show your process informally. And so I think that the thing that gets missed when we're showing just in galleries is people see it on the wall, but they don't understand all that has to happen for it to get there. So when you're doing something like this, when you're operating within this medium of Instagram, you can show how you got from point A to B to C to, you know, X, Y, and Z. There are so many steps, especially for those of us doing very long, drawn out processes, and people are interested in that. When they become interested in your process, they follow you from the beginning to the end, and it becomes this journey that they're sort of going on with you. And so I've had people contact me and be like, oh my God, I'm so excited to see that piece came out of the mold safely. I'm like, okay, you care now. That's great. That's wonderful. So I think it helps people develop a deeper relationship with your work, even if they don't realize that's what's happening. So I think that is great, because the more people that care about you and how your pieces come out of the molds, the better, right? The other thing that is amazing about this app is that it's free. So it's better than paying for advertisement. I know galleries that have stopped advertising in magazines and newspapers, and they only advertise via Instagram now. And by advertising, I mean they're not paying, they're just posting. So it does allow you to market yourself in a way where you're able to save money. So all these good benefits. So what I want to start with, and what's going to happen here is some of you may be active on Instagram already, and you may have done some of these things. So bear with us for the people who have not yet, or the people who are still very new. And then also use this as a chance to think about potentially tweaking some of these things in your Instagram. I think that it's always a good idea to relook at something with fresh eyes and see if it's the best that it can be. So keep that in mind. So when we're looking at these things, I'm going to show you both desktop and mobile images here. Later on, I'll do a bit of a demonstration actually in Instagram Live, and I will be using the desktop version. But I just wanted you to see the difference between the desktop, meaning I'm looking at it on my computer, versus this is what it looks like on my phone. Everything's just condensed in, but the information is all the same. There is a little bit more you can do with the app on your phone. They want you to be on your phone. They want you to be using it that way. But the desktop version is able to do more things than it used to be. You used to not be able to post a picture from your computer, but now you can. So I'll talk about that a little bit as we go. But there are all these elements that are part of your profile, and we'll get into them briefly, but you have your profile photo, your username, your actual name, your bio here, and your link. And then sometimes people will have a certain type of account where you can have a little email button. That's sort of, you know, the second level of Instagram. So we're going to keep it to the basics tonight. The thing that we want to think about right now is this edit profile button. So here you'll see it next to your name, your username there. And then on the mobile app, you'll see it down here. The same effects occur when you hit that button. So this is what we're going to talk about right now. When you hit that button, you're able to change your profile photo, change your name or your username. You'll be able to change your website, your bio, or your email. So if you look over here, this is what pops up when I hit that edit profile button. My name is still Darla Jackson, so I'm going to keep that. My username used to be Alfalfa Loves Me. Nobody knew who that was. It was hard to tell people how to spell it. It was awful. So a few years ago, I switched it to Darla Jackson Sculpture, and I'm very thankful that I did. We'll talk about website links in just a moment, but mine goes to a links page on my website, and then my bio is here, and my email address. So how do you consider these things? Like, what do you do? So I think the first thing you should consider is the profile photo, because that's the visual representation of you within this app. You can choose to put a photograph of yourself, a piece of your art, like here, or a logo if you're a business, or you just have your own personal logo. Like this is an artist who is a large scale sculptor, Stephen Tusk, I think is his name. And then this is just his personal logo. So I think that when you're deciding which of these things you want to do, it's important to consider the overall tone of your page. Like, are you a very serious artist who is only talking about art? Are you like me? Are you like fun and a little goofy, but still taking it very seriously? So you'll notice that I have some of my art on my head. And I think that that helps set the tone for what your experience is going to be like when I welcome you into my Instagram space. You want to make sure that you're choosing something that is clear and easy to identify in a smaller format. So you see this circle, they're pretty big on my screen right now, but when you're looking at it on a phone, it's so tiny. You want it to represent you clearly, even at that very small scale. So that is something to think about. You can change it as many times as you want to see what it looks like, but I think that once you find one that you feel like works for you, you should stick with it. It's a good idea to keep it consistent across your various social media platforms, because then it makes you more easily identifiable. So if somebody's looking for you and they're like, oh wait, yeah, I recognize this. This is the same picture from Facebook. That's the same person. Okay. It just helps you be more cohesive as sort of a whole artist branding package. We're not going to get that deep with it, but it is helpful for people to see you in that way. The next thing that you want to think about is your username. So you can use your actual name or your business name. Here is an example. Jed Morfitt is a sculptor. His name is Jed Morfitt. His name is actually Jedediah, but I think that would probably trip some people up. So I'm glad he just went with Jed. Phyllis Sculptors is a business name, as we all know. Darla Jackson Sculpture is what like I said, I switched to from Alfalfa Loves Me. Is your name available? Darla Jackson by itself was not available. So I had to make it something that was still representing me as an artist. I didn't want Darla Jackson art because I'm more focused on sculpture. So I wanted to be specific about that. So think about, again, how you want to represent yourself. Consider the length of your name. When I had the Philadelphia Sculpture Gym, all of our social media was Philadelphia Sculpture Gym, except for Instagram, because it wouldn't fit. It was like 2 letters off. So I had to shorten it to Sculpture Gym, which really irked me. It's okay. Is it hard to spell? So like this guy whose name I can never remember because I can never pronounce it or spell it or anything. He's always tricky for me to find because his name is so hard to spell. It's his name, so he can't really change it, but that is something to consider. The other thing that I didn't put here, I guess it falls under, is your name available? Is your name such a very common name that a lot of people have it? And then how do you distinguish yourself from them? Again, it's good to keep your name consistent across your social media platforms. So Workhardened is my partner, Paul, and he has his website is workhardened.com, and his clients know him as that. So calling himself Workhardened keeps him easily identifiable, even though it's not his name. Is it recognizable as you? So this person, they just chose the Carnival as their Instagram title. However, it is not their name and it's not their business name. And so I can never remember this person, what to call them, because this makes it a little bit confusing. And then the last thing that I think is really important, does it spell something else? This Instagram is called The Heaviest of Art. However, it looks like the heavies to fart. So you want to try and choose an Instagram name that does not spell anything that's indicative of embarrassing bodily functions, no expletives. So this is something that you want to make sure that you're just looking for. So once you pick your Instagram name, maybe have somebody look it over and make sure it doesn't say fart in there anywhere. Or adults, I know, right? But it's still, you don't want anybody to mess that one up for you. Next would be your website or the link option. So you have that little space where you can put your website or you can put a link. This is a great opportunity to include links to your website, your online shop, an article that was just written about you, a workshop sign up link if you're teaching a workshop and you want people to join, an exhibition that you have coming up, or a links page where you can include all of these things. When you're posting on Instagram, you can reference the phrase link in bio if you want somebody to go complete an action in reference to what you're talking about. Rebecca Reeves here has this Linktree page where she can link to her solo show that she just had, her own shop, an interview that she did with someone, another interview, and another interview. So this is a good place and a clean way to do it. So once you click on this link, it will take you to a variety of links, giving you more options than just the one. All right, and then last but not least, our bio. The bio, again, is one of those things I think you can help set the tone of your page. So I included a few different types of bios here. Robin Whiteman is a ceramicist, and her bio states simply ceramic sculpture as spiritual practice. So you get a little bit of an idea of the fact that she is a ceramic sculptor and she's thinking about these pieces spiritually as she's making them. Heidi Waysweet is an artist a feral artist in San Francisco Bay, California, a sculptor of bas-relief and metals. She's part of the NSS and the AMSA. She has her website here and here. So she doesn't really need to have it twice, but she's making sure that you know what it is. And then here, Rebecca Stevenson sculpture. She has a quote about her work here, a kind of uncanny rococo, currently exhibiting in Grinley Gibbons, Centuries in the Making, in the UK. And so here, she's using it as an opportunity to talk about an exhibition that she's in at the moment. This will take you to her website, but you know that, oh, okay, she's in a show, so let me maybe go look for information about that. And then lastly here we have Blue Review, which is actually an art submission website where they're giving you instructions here. Send 3 images via DM to submit your work for a feature, or take an Instagram for Artists seminar with one of our curators, Dana Brodsky. We'll talk about her in a little bit. She's wonderful and has so much information about Instagram. It's almost overwhelming. Okay, so that's our sort of basic setup in terms of how to get started with just the nuts and bolts of who you are as a person on Instagram. The next thing that you would need to do is to add photographs. How do you take good photos? Well, I have some thoughts about that. So first of all, as you're working, it's important to just take photos throughout the day. So you have any sort of content. So you can take photos, you can take videos, and some of the things that you'll want to do when you're doing this are to remove distractions from the background. So if you have a bunch of junk sitting behind your piece, you might want to clear them away. Here you have an example of Simon Lee, who goes by the Instagram handle Spider0. He has a space set up where the background is pretty empty. So when he's posting his work, unless it's a studio shot, you're getting a nice clear view of the art and he doesn't have to move too much stuff around. You want to make sure the focus is on the work. And that's, apparent, that's what you're trying to show. Including your tools and materials. People really like that because they like to see what tools you're using to sculpt the thing. They want to see what kind of clay you're using. They'll often ask you and say, whoa, what kind of clay is that? So seeing the things that you're using in addition to the work is exciting and important. A lot of the people that are on Instagram are young kids. And as funny as it feels to be catering to them sometimes, they're sort of the machine that drives the app. It's very strange. But giving them sort of tidbits from you that you've learned over the course of your career is beneficial to them. And then they see your work and they promote it to everyone else. And so it's this back and forth that I feel like is a good relationship ultimately. Making sure the lighting is good in your images is so important. It's really it makes a huge difference between a really beautifully lit natural light photo versus something that's like in the dark bowels of somebody's studio corner. If you have a dark studio, getting a couple clamp lights can really be helpful. And it makes a big difference. I'll show you at the end of this how to go in and tweak a photo a little bit, but you want to try to get your photos as close to ready as possible. I do everything with just my phone, so I'm not using any fancy camera or anything like that. If you have a fancy camera, you absolutely can, but I try to just keep it as simple as possible. The other thing you want to do is to take multiple images. So if you're working on a piece, you might get your straight on view, your 3/4 view, your view from far back, your detail view. That way you can post about a piece multiple times, but the image isn't exactly the same. I think the Instagram algorithm doesn't like when you post the same image over and over again. You can tweak images in the app when you're posting for brightness, etc. But like I said, try to get a usable photo as you are taking it. I'll, like I said, show you what I mean as I go forward. Here are some examples of people who have images that read really well. Kwimi Shimi is a sculptor working with sort of like gross imagery here, but the photos are always stunning. So it doesn't matter what your subject is, as long as your photos are beautifully lit, they always feel very bright. So it makes it look like a very inviting photo until you look and see that it's this like thing with teeth. This is our friend whose name I can never say. His photographs are always beautiful. His is bordering on almost gallery looking images, even when they're in progress clay pieces. So I think that he does a great job of promoting the work in this way really nicely. And then LB Buchan, they have really beautiful images as well. Again, even when it's in process, here you have a piece that's clamped up, they're going to be carving it, their feet are in the picture, but it's still interesting. So you have an idea of how this process is going somewhat. So that is something that you can absolutely think about as you're taking your photos. I do find that it's helpful to look at other people and what they're doing to get an idea of what will work for you. The other thing that you can do when you're thinking about your photos is some Instagram accounts, some artists, but usually more businesses or curation accounts have overall themes that they do. So like Niche has this black and white portrait theme. So everything that they're shooting is in black and white, and it's almost always a portrait of someone. The color palette cinema is taking an image and then breaking down the colors in that image. So you get this very similar looking, even though the color palettes are different, feeling throughout the whole thing. And I told Leslie earlier, this is one of my very favorite new Instagram accounts that I follow. It's called Adventures in Jelly, and it's just someone casting jelly into molds, and they have videos, so it kind of wiggles. But the colors are super bright, and it's really playful and really fun. And the images are always beautiful. So I think that even though this is like a different kind of sculpture, right? I think there's still things to be learned when looking at accounts like that. And then I wanted to show you another round of images where I feel like there was a somewhat general color palette choice throughout the artist's posting. So Elizabeth Daines here is a hyper-realistic sculptor, but you have this neutral tones color palette that's happening just based on the color of the work. You don't have to get this deep with it, but know that when somebody clicks on your name, they're going to go to your account, and the first thing they're going to see is this block of multiple images. If it looks great, they're going to be more likely to want to follow you and keep an eye on your work. So that is why I mention it, just because it does affect how your account looks overall. I don't worry so much about this, but whatever. Valerie Hammond has this sort of neutral and blue tone going with pops of red, which I think is really fun. And then Kate McDowell is a sculptor using porcelain. And so there's a lot of neutral, sort of dark and light tones with these like pops of blue that happen periodically. So again, these are things that you can consider. You don't have to stress out over this, but if you start to get pretty savvy and you realize like a lot of your images are of a certain color palette, you can tweak that and make it look really nice. How often to post? So Instagram's algorithm wants you just to be posting at all. So that is your first step. So if you haven't posted for like 6 months, your first step is just to be posting anything at all. It doesn't matter how often, but just start. Whether you post or not affects your chance of your work being seen. So if you haven't posted in 6 months, Instagram isn't going to show your post to very many people. The algorithm got changed a few years ago, and it really made things interesting in terms of how people see your work. So the last 84 days specifically affects your visibility. So if you were posting a lot over the last 84 days, more people are going to see your work. If you have not posted at all over the last 84 days, very few people, if any, will see your work. The good news here is that if you start posting semi-regularly for 2 to 3 months, you'll be back in the good zone, and that will improve your reach dramatically from what it was when you were posting like once every 3 months. And I included here Tiffany Turner. Each of these people that I put here generally do a pretty good job at whatever the thing is that I'm talking about at that moment. She does these large scale flower sculptures out of crepe paper, and they're stunning. All right, so the other thing that the algorithm likes is consistency. It doesn't matter almost what your pattern is, as long as you make one and you start to keep it. So the algorithm likes this consistency, so you should post however often is manageable, but keep it consistent. So I put some examples here. If you decide you can post 3 times a week and you're going to do it on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's great. I personally post between Monday and Friday between 7 and 9 a.m. because that's when I get the best engagement. Weekends are like, okay, so I just want to give myself a few days off. Someone I know posts every other day at noon because they figure they can't do it every day, but they don't want to take a whole weekend off. So they just stagger the days. So really, it doesn't matter what you do to start. It's better to start smaller and say, okay, I'll start by posting once a week on Monday. And then you do that for, 2 or 3 weeks and you're like, okay, I think I could handle another day, and then add in another day that's a few days apart from that. You don't want to post just 2 days in a row and then not for the rest of the week. But to find a rhythm that works for you. So if you're not sure when to post, the generic best time to post is early in the morning, 7 to 9 a.m. As you get more advanced, you can start to look at your analytics in Instagram and see when your particular users or followers are most active. Paul, my partner, his most active time, I think, is at 9 p.m. on Thursday. So it can be different for everyone, but this works for me. I wake up, I make my coffee, and I sit at the table while I'm drinking my coffee and I do my Instagram post. And because I've been taking photos of my work all week, I have something that I can fall back on. This is another artist. Thomas is a wonderful sculptor, and he's particularly good at doing a wide variety of patinas. So it's fun to watch him work, and he's very good about posting regularly. So that is someone to watch. And here's the other like algorithm kicker. Your initial engagement, or the number of people that respond to your post in the first 3 to 5 minutes of you posting it, dictates the reach of your post. So plus other algorithm magic. So say you have 100 people that follow you. If 10% of those people like your post in the first 3 to 5 minutes, Instagram thinks, ooh, 10%, that's really good. That's a lot of people here. So it'll show it instantly to more people. It's, the algorithm, I'm not going to get too much into that other than what I know about it, which is very little. I think there are 1,400 points that the algorithm considers when deciding how to boost your posts. It's nuts. So how can you help this initial engagement be good? Well, you can post at an ideal time. Like I said, 7 to 9 a.m. is what works for me. If you're, not an early bird, there are a few apps that you can set up like the night before and it will post for you automatically. There's one called Later, and there's another one I just can never remember what it's called. But if you know that you just want it done for you, there are ways to do that. The other thing that you can do is to have a striking image, like something that you would be like, ooh, what is that? Because if people see a striking image, they're going to be more likely to click on it. And if they click on it, they're going to like it and say, oh, wow, how did you make this? Another thing that you can do is to get more engagement is to ask a question. I see this go sideways all the time where people are like, here's my art, tell me your favorite color. And they're not related. So it feels just like a grab for attention. However, if you have a question that you are curious about, or something that would be beneficial to you or your work, or you just like to talk to people, this can be a good thing to help get more engagement. If people are talking to you and you're talking back to them and they're talking back to you again, the algorithm loves that. So the more engagement, the better. The other thing is using hashtags, and we'll talk about those in just a moment, but that is a huge thing that will really help your reach overall. And then this is another artist, Emil, who is constantly doing a wide variety of figurative work, carve, cast, plaster, metal, like you name it. They're very simplified figures, but they're always doing something new and interesting. So it's pretty fun. Okay, so talking about pictures, we're talking about when to posting. There's different types of posts that you can consider if you're stuck and you don't know what to post about. A process post. These are one of my favorites. Show a part of your process. This is sort of a sneak peek into your studio. People love to see stuff like this because they don't normally. I was talking to someone a few years ago. Blacksmithing made this huge comeback because of the fact that there was a huge number of blacksmiths on Instagram. So then it got really popular because people were able to see this historic process now. And then, what's that show that came out, Forged in Fire, and then it really took off. So it's I think it's interesting to be able to show these processes that people, your average person does not understand, and then you're all of a sudden like a magician, and that makes you exciting and wonderful to them. So showing your process can be really exciting for many people. You can do this via photos or reels, which are more video based. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but you can be prepping your tools and materials. So if you're like sharpening chisels, or you're pulling out wax or clay, or getting your furnace ready to cast some bronze, spruing a wax, making a maquette, portrait of you in the studio, modeling in clay, any of these things. So you're not teaching people exactly, but you're just showing them just a little slice of life in your studio. Mission Foundry, these guys are constantly posting different parts of their process, and it's fun because people who don't understand the Foundry process, which is most people, get a view into the process and start to understand a little bit how it works. An educational post, which is a little bit different in terms of it's a little bit different in terms of how you're thinking about it. And Cheryl, I just saw your message. Should you always post to the public? It depends on what you want out of it. I have a public account, and because I'm only sharing my artwork, I do want everything to be public. If I had a personal account that was just like my family and such, I probably wouldn't have that as a public account. But it has to be what you feel comfortable with. Just know that if you post privately, people won't see you. So if you have, if you put up something really cool and you hashtag the crap out of it, anybody who sees that in the hashtag list, they won't be able to visit it because you're a private account. So it may not even show up for them. So you trying to expand your reach by being private, you're automatically limiting it, if that makes sense. So an educational post, so different from a process post, because the process, you're just showing a little part of the process and you're not really talking about how it's done necessarily. Whereas in an educational post, you will detail a certain part of the process in a step-by-step fashion. Again, you're not like, you know, this isn't a college course that they're taking for credit. You're just trying to get them to understand how it's done. So most viewers, because a lot of them are, you know, under 18, will never buy your work, but they will be so happy to learn from you. And then if they learn from you, then again, they're sharing the info, and then it may get to someone who is excited to buy your work. So the way that you can do this is use multiple photos, or like I said, reels, which again are a video. And you can do things like how to build an armature, how to model a head, how to build a base, how to do a certain patina. It could be any part of your process, and you could break it down into the smallest chunks. Like, I'm trying to think of what I did. Packing boxes, like people love seeing how to pack artwork. And it's something that I didn't think anyone would care about, but it became one of my most watched videos over the last year. So I think that even if it's something that you don't think is interesting, other people will probably be interested in it. So brainstorming about what part of your process might be interesting enough for that would be a great idea. David Simon is somebody who is a sculptor and an educator. And so David is constantly talking about process and classes and whatnot. I call this an ASMR post, but like, you know, how people are like, they want to hear somebody rub a paintbrush on a microphone and it's like a soothing sort of white noise sort of thing. Well, there's visual versions of that too. So if you can show something that feels hypnotic or very gratifying to watch, like the example is when people mask off their drawings with tape, and there will be people who do a video of that, just them pulling the tape off. And, you know, it feels good when you do it at home, but the people who are watching even feel good. So it's this funny thing that people love to watch. So one example is varnishing a piece. And if you go to the hashtag varnish porn, there are tons of videos of people just varnishing their paintings, and the whole internet loves it. It's crazy. It is very gratifying to watch, even as a non-painter. Pouring rubber is another thing, or painting rubber onto a piece. Sanding a piece, if you're, say, a wood carver, you could be sanding something, and that could be hypnotic and ASMR-ish. Carving marble, and Hakan Figueres here, he has a lot of videos where he's just working with an air hammer, carving a piece of marble, and it's like, I could watch that all day. So just thinking about stuff like that, that you know that is part of your process, that you're like, ooh, I could just watch somebody, you know, sieve wax all day. Like, okay, cool, try that out and see how it does. Mixing plaster, so things like that. Again, this is just, you know, when you're doing something and you're like, oh, this could be fun for the internet, just set up your camera. I usually just lean it against something and film myself doing it. And that can be helpful. The other thing that you can do is to get a swing arm that will hover over your workstation. I have one here, just it's holding my light. But it just sits and it holds your phone. You put your phone in here, and because it's above your work, it will hold your phone and you don't have to touch anything or mess with the phone. You can get them on Amazon for like 20 bucks, and it comes in very handy. So it's like a third arm. A time lapse post. I put myself here because I always do these. I love time lapse. I know that anyone who has an iPhone, in the photo section of the phone, you have the option. If you scroll all the way to the left, you'll get the time lapse option. And what it does is it just compresses, you know, however long you're filming. So if you're sculpting for 2 hours, it compresses it into like 20 seconds. And so when you do this, you get to see this very quick part of the process, done very fast, and people love it. I love it. I love watching them over and over again. So I'll show you an example. I'll show you this video when we go to the live Instagram. But things that you could do are clay modeling. You could demold a rubber. You could pack a piece of art. You can carve a piece of wood. You could install a piece. Anything that would look really funny if you were doing it pretty quickly. I put one up not terribly long ago of a bronze pour. I just had somebody film it for us, and you know, it was like a cartoon because we were all going so fast, and but it looked impressive. So that is another option as well. So there are different ways that you can post about all these things. A post, just a regular post, which I'll show you how to do later. You can choose a single photo, you can do multiple photos in a row, or you can do it as a video. A reel is a new option that they introduced where you can not just put video or a series of photos, but you can add music. And it's fun if you can find the right way to do it. I like to use them to do educational posts or time lapse because I can put nice music to my video and enjoy it. But it is a trap on the internet. I feel like I see more and more of my serious artist friends sort of acting out these weird skits that come with that territory, and I don't participate in that. So you do what you feel comfortable with, but reels are given priority currently. I think they expand your reach 6 more times because of the fact that they're new. So Instagram wants more people to use them. So they are to your benefit to use if you can find a way that you can use them comfortably. And then an Instagram Live is a real-time video where viewers can interact with you. Again, this is not something that I do because I don't know, I just want to be doing stuff on my own terms and my own time. But a lot of people have good success here where they'll just go live and then they're on their phone talking and people are writing in comments and they're just answering them in real time. So that can be pretty fun for some people. I put up a picture here of Stephanie Metz. She's an artist who does large scale felted forms that are loosely anatomically based, but they are abstract forms. She does a really great job of putting up instructional videos and time lapse and things like that. So she's somebody to check out if you're interested in that type of work. And then here's another example of posting images. So your Instagram is a grid and it is 3 images wide. Oftentimes you'll see people post stuff like this where you get a whole image that is actually interconnected somehow. However, when you have someone who does it like this, and I feel bad to pick on Julia because I really love her work, but you end up with like 6 weird images that have very little context when you see them individually, because she has to post this and then this and then this and then the black square and then this one and then another black square. So I think that this would actually hurt your reach because you would have very little interaction with this piece and probably these 2 pieces. So I don't recommend doing these sort of large scale photo tiles that you see. The exception to the rule here, this is Paul, my partner. He's a painter and he just did a 9 foot by 9 foot painting that was done in individual 3 foot by 3 foot squares. And they make up the whole painting when he posts them. So each of these posts is part of the whole, but each of them is interesting enough to merit its own response. So, and then when you see this all together on the Instagram grid, it looks impressive because people are seeing it all together when they don't normally. So I think that that is something to consider. Right, using hashtags. So hashtags, I think, are, in addition to having like good photos and doing all the other stuff, this is the #1 way that you will start to make a difference with your Instagram. So if you are already doing Instagram and you're feeling pretty good about it, tweaking your hashtags is hugely important. So let's do this. Hashtags can expand your reach. They do this. You can use hashtags to reach a wider audience of people that don't follow you, but do look at or follow hashtags. You can do this by adding the hashtag symbol or the little pound sign right here, and whatever word or words describe your work at the bottom of your post. So I'll show you when we do the example later how you can see these in real time. And just certain ones that people might follow and why. So here I posted something recently. The first 5 pieces for my upcoming Talon Gallery solo show in March 22 are out of the kiln safely. Much more to do and more to come soon. I'm so professional. Then, because they're clay pieces, I hashtagged clay, sculpture, sculptor, sculpture, because I want to try to, get some other folks. Animal arcs, they're all animal sculptures. I'm dealing with ideas and duality. Pieces of Me is the title of one of the pieces. Emotional portraiture, emotional portraiture is something I use often because that's what I call my work. Narrative, because the art is narrative. There's a couple of dead birds in there, so I hashtag that. That's a very surprisingly popular hashtag. It's weird. I get a lot of people that follow me from that. So work in process, which is WIP, and then process, because it's part of the process. They're not finished pieces. So when you're doing this, you have the ability to add 30 hashtags to every post. You should not add 30 hashtags to every post. You should add 5 to 7. If you're feeling extra fancy that day, you can expand it, but I would focus in the beginning on getting 5 to 7 hashtags per post. What I did was I went and at the advice of Dina Brodsky, who I'll talk about, she had a larger Instagram class and recommended you all go get 30 hashtags that work for you. And by get, that means do the research, find ones that people you like are using that fit your size of your followers. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. And then, I did that and found what worked for me, and then just add in some other ones too. It takes a little bit of research to get this right, but if you spend 2 hours poking around on Instagram and then you get a good list of hashtags you can use, it does wonders. So this is a thing that a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, I'm making art and I'm making sculpture, so I'm just going to hashtag them art and sculpture, right? Well, no. So your hashtag size should be proportional to the size of your account. For example, if you have 500 followers, you should look at hashtags that have between 5,000 and 100,000 posts. Darla, what are you talking about? Well, when you search hashtags, they come up with this little number under them. So that means that there have been 17,637 posts under the hashtag wildlife sculpture. So think of it as a filing system or a keyword system. So you want to put your piece in with those, other wildlife sculpture pieces. Mold making has 193,386 posts. Art has 881,557,315 posts. Nobody really should use the art hashtag because it's just too big. So nobody's going to see it. What that means is when you search a hashtag, what happens is anything that gets posted at that moment will show up under the hashtag. Because art has so many people posting to it, the things are just blipping by super fast. So if anybody's following the art hashtag, they'll never see your piece. Or if they go to the art hashtag, it's going to be gone as soon as you post it, because so many people are posting at the same time. Whereas if you post into something like wildlife sculpture, they're going to be more likely to see it because you're not competing with as many people, if that makes sense. We'll talk a little bit more about this. So you can search hashtags by going just to your search bar and typing in whatever hashtags you think might be relevant to you. So I typed in wildlife sculpture, it came up. I typed in clay, I typed in this. And you want to start to look at the appropriate size for your account. So like we said, if you have 500 followers, you want to look at hashtags that have between 5,000 and 100,000 posts. The easy way to figure this out based on your number of followers is take your number of followers and you want to do between 10 times that and 200 times that. So if you have 293 followers, you want to look for hashtags that have between 2,930 posts or to 58,600 posts, and so on. Because I have right now 54,000 followers, I'm looking at things in the hashtag range of 540,000 to 10,800,000. So you should be bumping it up incrementally as your audience grows too. You know, you don't have to be so exact with it. And if you're like, to hell with it, sometimes I just want to post using this hashtag, that's okay. Like, just, you know, or if you think of a funny hashtag that you like that nobody ever uses, like that's part of your personality. So you do what you want. But knowing that if you're trying to get people to follow you based on this method, you should be a little bit more conscious of it. One thing that you can do if you find a category that's too large, like clay, I looked that up earlier today, it has 10,720,243. So that's probably going to be too big. So you can narrow it down. Okay, let me try clay sculpture. And that has 600,000, you know, some odd. I looked up clay wildlife sculpture and that didn't have any. So that's not a great idea to do either, because then nobody's going to find it. So you might want to find something one more down, like clay animal sculpture, and that would probably put you in a good range. The other thing that you can do is be more specific about what type of clay. So like wed clay is, you know, used a lot in the scenic industry. And so people are very into that. That has 10,238 posts. Porcelain, everybody loves porcelain. So that is 4,602,792. You could try water-based clay, you could try oil-based clay. And the same applies for people working in other mediums. So like, you know, if you were a painter, you would try, you know, like oil painting. That would be too big. You could try oil on linen. That would be smaller. You know, realistic oil on linen, you know, it just trying to niche down what you're doing is going to be helpful here. And you could talk about the different types of art. Like I said, I use narrative art a lot. I use contemporary sculpture. So just looking around what people that you admire are using and checking out their hashtags. So like you can scope them out and see what they're doing, and that will be really helpful. So here, I just want to give you a few things not to do ever. Don't include images that look like ads. So many people are guilty of this. You'll see this in some of the images I show you after this of people that I think have great Instagrams. One of the biggest offenders of this is show cards that are text-based. Instagram does not like text. It thinks it's an ad, and so it will immediately suppress your reach. You can add an image first and then have your show card image second, or you can just put the show card information in your comment of your post. But text in general, like even sometimes, like if somebody sees like your notebook and there's text that's definitively clear, it will suppress your reach. I don't know, it's the AI. Don't include your personal life. There's a lot of people who have like beautiful art, but then it's like every third picture is like their kids doing something crazy. That's great. But I think if this is your artist page, you should focus on your art. Like if you get married or you have a baby or you just want to say like happy birthday to your partner, that's fine occasionally, but you don't want it to be too often. So you can always open up a second account that you just do family stuff with, or if you want to just take pictures of your sandwiches or whatever you want to do. But to keep it minimal in terms of being on your page. Do not ever buy followers, because Instagram knows that you're doing this. And it will suppress your reach forever. So if you've actually ever have bought followers, you should just start a new account, because it lives on for some reason. I'm not sure why, but it does. And it's really hard for people who have ever bought followers to get out of that mess. Don't pay to boost your posts either, because what happens when you pay to boost them, Instagram's like, yes, you're going to pay to have people see your work. So they're going to suppress your reach so that you pay more, so that it's, you know, I don't make the rules. I just try to scoot around them. Don't post nudes of yourself or otherwise. If you are a figure sculptor making nude figure sculptures or paintings or whatever, the Instagram will register them as inappropriate material. So Leslie and I talked a little bit today about ways around this. You can post fragments of the image that doesn't show any breasts or genitalia. Some people put like little hearts or smiley faces over nipples and things. And, you know, the AI hates nipples for whatever reason, even if it's just art. I think it's better to crop the image and to either put the full image in the second image, so it's not being seen right away, or to say, oh, if you want to see this full image, go to my website. So it is something that can be problematic. Like even I know some of the art schools have a hard time with it because, you know, they're doing figure sculpture. So I hope they find a way around this, but at the moment it is problematic. So if you are posting sculptures of nude figures, you will have a hard time. There are people who have worked around it, but they're fighting very hard to do it. Don't copy and paste text into your caption. So if you're writing out your caption, never cut and paste. You should write it out always. Instagram does not like robotic actions, and cutting and pasting your text is considered that. So it will also suppress your reach because of it. Again, this AI is something else. Here are just a few things to do. Do include your Instagram handle on your business cards, your email footer, your website. Tell people like, oh, hey, do you have an Instagram? Here's mine. It helps, you know, you get out there, and people sometimes will just like, I'll see it in the email footer and I'll just, oh, what's this person's Instagram look like? I also put it, usually, I don't know if I have it tonight. Yeah, I have it in my Zoom there. So for those of you who are interested, you might see that and be like, oh, let me go see what Darla's Instagram looks like. You should do a post and then get back to work. You should make it part of your routine. You should not spend all day like checking how you're posted on Instagram. That defeats the point. The idea is to make it so it's part of your routine. It's a simplified action, and then you're spending your day working. Like nobody wants to be on Instagram all day. It's not good for us as artists, but it is good for us to use as a tool. You again should take photos and videos while you're working, so you have content. So if you're doing something, just set up your time lapse video and just do what you're doing and try not to think about it. And then in a few days when you don't know what to post, you'll be like, oh yeah, I took that video, I could use that. Do try things, and if they work, keep doing it. If they don't, try something else. It is like you'll see that some things will catch on really well and other things are going to fall a little flat, and that's okay. It's kind of a constantly evolving thing, and you just have to do what feels right for you and what you're comfortable with, and what people respond to. And then I think a good thing is to look at other artists that you like and see what they're posting, see what their posts look like, see what they're talking about, what hashtags they're using. I think that is really helpful. And so I've included artists here. There's a few pages of people that I look at. Joe Mena is a sculptor with the US Mint here in Philadelphia, and he's posting a combination of digital work, actual sculpture, sometimes selfies, I guess. Kit Paulson is a glass artist, and she's making these really beautiful flame worked pieces that are stunning. I have some of these glass pomegranate seeds. They're amazing. So her images are always really beautiful. This is Con and Selesnik. It's an artist duo. They make beautiful work as well. Some of it is sculpture, some of it is more larger scale paintings and photographs. They're basically world builders, and so their Instagram is really fun, and they do a lot of interesting projects that they post about the making of, and then the ability to support them through Kickstarter. So I've supported a few of their projects. We love them. They're great. A few other artists. Lewis Colburn is a Philadelphia artist who's doing a lot of digital scanning and then 3D printing and whatnot. And so his process is fascinating to me. Crystal Mori is a sculptor using porcelain to create human-animal hybrid forms. Ryan Wilson Kelly was a Philadelphia artist. I don't know if he's still around here, but doing large-scale ceramic pieces that are kind of wacky. He's super funny. There's a performative aspect to what he's doing. And they're super fun, super playful, always bright colors and sort of skeptical turkeys and things like that. Jeannie Jaffe, also a Philadelphia artist. I think that she's always posting a lot of really interesting pieces that have beautiful photographs. And so I like the insight to Jeannie's work. Willie Fergner is amazing wood carver. Like these pieces are stunning. They're color blocked in interesting ways. You can see he's got like all kinds of text going on here, but you know, he probably just doesn't care. Christina Bothwell is a glass artist who is doing glass casting that is being combined with fired clay pieces, and sometimes they're like 6 feet tall. So it's fascinating again to see the scale of these things. She's also great. I've heard her talk about her work a few times, and it's wonderful to hear her talk about it. Warren Holtzman is a blacksmith here in Philadelphia, and again, like his process I love just to like see what he's up to and the stuff that he's making. Paul Rymer is an animal sculptor, and he has his own foundry and does a lot of animal stuff. I'm just, you know, he's somebody I like to look at and watch what he's up to. And then Dina Brodsky, I've mentioned her a couple times. She's a painter and a sort of Instagram wizard. So if you guys get very into the idea of this and you sort out your Instagram and you want to take it to the next level, she does Instagram seminars. She says she's doing one on Sunday, January 30th. You can register. It's a paid workshop, but they're totally worth it. She sits with you and like for 4 hours straight talks about Instagram, and it's like interesting and exciting the whole time. She's so sweet and very knowledgeable. She is going to at some point put together something just for sculptors because I talked to her about it. So once I have that info, if you're interested, Leslie will send an email out and you guys will be able to sign up if you want. If you want to go down the rabbit hole. I always want to go down the Instagram rabbit hole. So that's why I'm here talking tonight. So if you guys have any questions that I don't answer after showing you this, and then after we have a chance to talk, you can always email me at darlajacksonsculpture@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer what I can. But for now, we're going to jump to me showing you how to do something in Instagram. So this is my Instagram page, which now you should be very familiar with. You've seen lots of images of it already. So first I'll show you a couple things that I was talking about. Here is the time lapse of just me painting rubber on the pieces, and it's nothing fancy, but you know, look at all these people are very excited about this. So that is pretty fun. And then Cheryl, I saw your question here. What are these little circles? These are story highlights. And so when you post a story, so when you click on this little plus, you have, it's only on the phone. So it's a little bit different, but when you click this on the phone, you have the option to do a post, a reel, a story, or a live. A story just shows up in this little thing. It's like a little extra. It doesn't affect your engagement at all, but I think it's a place that you can be sort of fun and funny. So if you click on mine right now, you'll see my daughter driving a forklift from when I had the sculpture gym, and I tagged Art Handler magazine because there was an article, I think the president of Australia said that kids under 18 should be allowed to drive forklifts because of the work shortage. So I'm volunteering up Olivia here. And then the other thing that I have is my cat. So this is like, you know, all that stuff I was talking about, like don't put your personal stuff in your Instagram feed. You can put it in stories. The other thing that you can do in stories is put links to press. I have mold processes. So like if you go down the line, like I had some YouTube videos I did, we had kittens last year. So I put lots of pictures of them in the stories. But if you go, there's different process things that I've gathered here. So I think I could do like a whole nother talk on just stories, but these are a good resource because I like to put them, you know, here's blanket molds section 1, 2, and 3. And if somebody clicks through, I'll do it real fast just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. I just do very short educational stories as opposed to posts about how to make a mold. So I'm doing it like step 1, step 2, step, you know, and I think with this one, we got up to like step 88. And again, it's just a way for people to have insight into your process, but I didn't want to do 88 posts about it. I wanted it to be a little more fun and a little more quirky and a little easier to access. So I'll show you another post that I did really well. So if you look through, you'll see like some are reels, they have this little symbol, some are just pictures, some are multiple pictures. Here's a picture of Olivia. This is me making a mold of Olivia's head. So that was another time lapse that was exciting to people because it was something fun and funny and interesting enough. And she was a pretty good sport about it. So that was wonderful. And you know, this is us doing this for like an hour and a half, but it compresses it down into like 30 seconds. Let me show you the one I was talking about. But yeah, you know, it's like you can go nuts in here and just like really look and see. Sometimes I do cool stuff. I post about it. I held a hawk. That was fun. This is me packing a box. And this one, yeah, if you can see here, 74,000 people liked this post. And so it just did really well. I guess did the right hashtags and then people shared it and then, watched it multiple times. And so it had a lot of traction. And like I said, it's just me packing a box, but it did really well. So I'm going to scoot back up here. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to show you how to work on a piece or how to post a piece. So I'm clicking this post and you can either drag or drop photos if you are at your computer. Otherwise, if you're at your phone, you're going to be picking them from the photos in your phone. And I have this wax of a piece I cast years ago. It's behind me, it's over there. And I'm going to hit next. And so what happens next is you get this option to change the filter. So now it's just regular. I can make it black and white. There's these options that end up being sort of moody or whatever. I like this one called Juno, but I don't usually like it full strength. So I take it down to about half and it just changes the tone a little bit. So like if you look at it original, the background's a little duller. When I put it to this, it's a little bit brighter. But if I want to tweak this even more, I'll go to this adjustments tab. And then here you have the ability, and this is the same on the phone. It actually gives you more options on the phone. Here you can increase the brightness, like, whoa, that's too much. So I'll just do like a little bit. If you want your contrast to go up or down, you can play with that. Here looks good. You can play with your saturation. No, I want that just to be plain. Your temperature, if you feel like it's too warm of a photograph, you can make it cooler or you can make it really warm. I'm gonna leave that at 0. Fade. This is like, the intensity of it. I'm not going to play with that. And then if you want to put a vignette around it, you can make it, a little darker on the edges. But I think this looks good. This feels like it fits with the rest of my pieces. I enjoy the way it looks, so I'm just going to hit next. And again, I try to pick a photo that already looks pretty good, and I just need to tweak it a little bit. Like I said, I don't want to spend all day doing this. I don't have time for that. So here's where you get the chance to write your caption. So on Thursdays, there's a hashtag called Throwback Thursdays. So you can, be cheeky and say throwback to whatever. So I'll say throwback to the wax for, what is this piece? I'll bury you with all the others. You can tag other people. So this was cast at Independent Casting. So I would say, which was cast at Independent Casting in, I don't remember what year, so I'm probably just not going to leave it at that. And then now this is when I want to put my hashtags. So if I'm thinking about this, okay, well, what is this? It's a wax. However, wax has 9,993,000 and so on. I can go up to 10 million, but I think wax is going to get a lot of like weird stuff that I'm not talking about, like bikini waxes and candles. So we're gonna do, you know, foundry wax and see what that looks like. 49 posts. Lost wax foundry, 189. So we're gonna do lost wax process. Okay, so we have 9,881. We'll do that. We'll do foundry process or foundry. We'll see what foundry's like. Foundry's 240. So yeah, that sounds good. We'll do bronze casting. Yeah, sure. That looks good. We're gonna do rabbit. This will probably have a lot. So 17 million rabbits of Instagram is 5 million. So I'm gonna go for that. I'm gonna do animal art. No, none, zero. We're just gonna leave it because I want that one. Like I said, I do narrative a lot, 400,000. Emotional portraiture is the one I use all the time. And even though it doesn't have a lot of posts on it, that's like my thing. That's what I want to do. And then work in progress, that has 21 million. So that's a little high for me, but I'm still going to go for it. And then process is another one I like to use. That has 5 million. So this is good for me. I'm not going to add a location or anything. I think this looks good. So I'm going to share it. It's going to the internet. Okay, so it's been shared. And so if you look here, refresh it. There we go. There it is. So this isn't a time I normally post, so I don't know how well it'll do. But you can see here when you click on this, you get people, you see who's looking at your work when they like it, and it'll just pop up. So that is the basic of how to do this, why to do this, tips and tricks that I've found that really work for me. Do you guys have questions about what we talked about? I feel like we could really talk about this all day long and never be done. But Carol, I see your question here. Should you use different hashtags every time you post as long as they're in the right range? I think that it's good to mix them up periodically. So what happens is you'll have some like the 5 to 7 that you maybe use most often, and then have other ones that you cycle in. So I think it's better to be mostly consistent, but try to reach new audiences. So if you have 5 to 7 that you use regularly, maybe 5 of them you use over and over again, and then you cycle in 2 new ones, and every once in a while cycle something out and just see how it does. If you notice that you add in dead birds and it does amazing, then maybe you want to keep dead birds on for a while, and just play it by ear as you're able to. But I think that's the best way to approach it. And then in terms of putting prices on pieces you'd like to sell, usually what I do rather than doing that is I send people to a link in my piece or in my website, or I send them to the gallery. I will put a link in the stories that has the price showing sometimes. I don't know. I've seen people put prices in their posts and it works well because then people know and say, okay, yes, I can or cannot afford that. I don't know. I just don't like to for whatever reason, but it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work well for me. It's just a personal choice. So I would say try it if you feel comfortable, and if it works, keep doing it. And then caption writer's block, that is, yes, I get that all the time. So I don't know. I think the easiest thing to do for me, it's like I just keep it sort of light and funny. And so I'll sometimes just like today, I posted earlier and I didn't know what to say. So I just put ... That was all I had to say at that moment. However, sometimes I'm feeling a little sassy when every day is a party. But then I'll try to add something serious about it. So this was the title of the piece from my solo show at this. Sometimes it can just be like, here is this thing. I find the process pieces most easy to talk about because I can say, I'm doing this thing. Here it is. This is about that process, or this is this type of clay. So I think that that can be one way to approach it. Like if you're constantly doing something where you're talking about your process, you can just say, here's, you know, a 30-minute span of me hammering this piece of metal, you know, shrunk down into 30 seconds. It can be very straightforward if you're not feeling like you want to be clever all the time. It's it's exhausting. And I would say too, like if you have something that you're proud of or excited about, like this one, I put that I was excited to start teaching a mold making and casting class at PAFA this you know, afternoon, because as a mold maker, generally, I don't often get to teach that. So I'm teaching usually sculpture classes and there'll be a mold making component, but this class is completely geared towards mold making and casting. And so when you have accomplishments like that, that's great. When you're in a show, you can talk about, you know, your inspiration for the piece, or I'm just going to try this thing today. Like I did this other piece last year. I'll show you. I mean, you probably saw it, but this piece did really well, and it was just like a clay ring with birds, and the internet lost their mind. But this time I was just like, I don't know what to say about it, so I just said throwback, hoping to add some pieces to this series this year, because I am. So that's Olivia. She's so cute. And then Cheryl says, how do you interact with prospective clients? How do you know they are real? You may have answered, which is by sending them to a site, but yeah, I'm selling to them directly through my site. So I don't do like the, you know, unless I know the person already, it's not like a send me your Venmo or PayPal. I have something, if it's not already set up on my website, I will make a listing for them, and they will buy it through that. And so they gave me money, so I'm going to send them something. And I feel like I have better luck with that than I hear people do on sites like Etsy. I know people that do really, really wonderfully on Etsy, but it's more of a marketplace. So people think you're more like Target. Whereas I have people that know they're going to wait 6 months for me to make this thing, because I have to make, you know, 7 of them. And I told them, you're not going to get this for a while. So I think sometimes it feels more like, how do they know I'm real and that they're actually going to get something? But I think that communication is really important. In terms of Daryl Hannah, I really did think, I was like, this is somebody messing with me, pretending to be Daryl Hannah and wanting to get like free art out of me or something. But when you see someone, you can see that they have the blue check mark. And so that is, that means that it's actually them, and they're more likely a trustful person as opposed to somebody impersonating that entity. But I think it's having a system in place is the short answer to that question. So if you can set up on your website so that you are able to just send someone like, here's the link to your listing. I will have this piece ready in 2 to 4 weeks, and I will send you tracking info when it's ready. And so Bonnie's asking the question, when you look at hashtags, you see top and recent. So everything will go under recent. It doesn't show up that way for some reason on the desktop, but it does show up that way on the phone. So top are the most popular posts in that hashtag section. So that means if you get into top, it means that anybody who's following that sees it, sees your work. And so that is a great thing. When your work does get into that top section, you have no control over it. It's just a matter of people seeing your work and liking it, and enough people do that to get it over to that side. Recent is just the chronological flow of people who are using that hashtag. If you find a hashtag that does not list top or recent, it just has, you know, images, it could potentially be a banned hashtag. So you won't want to use that. I noticed that certain things like, I did a piece with glass tears in it and I hashtagged crying. Let me see if it comes up. And it was like, are you sure you want to use this hashtag? People who use this hashtag have been associated with, you know, sadness or something. Yeah, so here it says top post. It's not giving me that message, but it might on the phone. So I think they're trying to avoid perpetuation of certain ideas, or maybe like a gathering of people who might be influenced a certain way, but it's an interesting thing. I think skeleton or skull, or some things like that are sometimes in that realm. So if you are researching your hashtags and you notice that they don't have a top and a recent section, just avoid that hashtag. There's not a definitive list of them. Like Instagram doesn't say don't use these hashtags. But if you do use them, nobody will see your posts. They limit the reach of them for whatever reason. Should you delete old posts that do not follow some of these suggestions, show card, family posts, or is it like a credit card, you need longevity history? It doesn't matter. I think it's more about thinking about this moving forward. Like, it doesn't affect your reach that they exist there. However, the thing that if they're pretty recent and you want people that go to your page not to see the picture of your cute kid and your dog, or your show card, you can delete it. After I did my whole Instagram overhaul, I think I went back and deleted like the 3 images that had a lot of text in them, but then I left everything else because I was just, I couldn't be bothered to go back that far. So it will not affect you moving forward. It's just when people go to your page, are they seeing, are the top like 10 rows of your Instagram looking really good? Because if you have, okay, this looks good, but then these are all, not great. I mean, here, like, I'm defying my own rules. I have our Christmas card picture and there's a picture of Olivia at Christmas time. But like, I'm okay with that. So as long as you're okay with what it looks like and you feel like that's the best representation of yourself, then I would just leave it. You don't have to go nuts deleting stuff. Some people go all the way back and really clean it up, which you can do, but it's not going to affect your process moving forward, if that makes sense. Does anybody else have any questions? And like I said, if you guys do think of anything that I wasn't able to answer here, I'm happy if you just shoot me an email. I'll, like I said, answer it best I can. I would find people that you enjoy and I would just look at their Instagrams. There's people that I look at every day and I love it. I'm going to end on this note here. And Adventures in Jelly. It has nothing to do with art, but like I said, it's one of the most wonderful Instagrams that I think is out there. Are you happier now than you just were? Oh, thank you guys so much for the kind words. I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed this, and this is meant to like be helpful. Don't let it stress you out. Ultimately, I do think that you should be having fun, and that is sort of the key of this. And if you get stressed out, just go to this Adventures in Jelly and you'll feel better instantly. Thank you guys. Let me stop my share. And just so you know, this will be, like I said, posted on the Philadelphia Sculptors website at some point, and you guys will have access to it. And I know that we're talking about doing more of these talks in the future so that you get an added benefit with your membership. And yeah, it's been great. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Darla.
Thank you. Have
Thank
a great
you,
night,
Darla.
guys. Thank
You're
you.
great. Dynamite.
Oh, thank you. Take care.